fields of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the...
Well, but point on. Gray?
Here.
Jerem?
Here.
Milton?
Here.
Pauls?
Here.
Thompson's out of the chambers. Gurnett?
Here.
Mr. President?
Here. Please rise for the pledge and invocation by Councilmember Chris Jerem.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, it's Thanksgiving week, so I want to take a moment to pause to give thanks for our family, our friends, loved ones, for the people
Franklin.
who work for the city, from the top down, from the mayor to our colleagues here, to our city clerk and your staff, council, our staff, everyone who makes the wheels turn here at city government. So this Thanksgiving, let's just give a minute to think about all that they do for us and for the city, oftentimes without thanks.
City Clerk certifies publication of the Daily Record on November 22nd. Notice for a brief council and regular City Council meeting November 26, 2013. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Omaha City Council. This meeting is conducted in public and by law may only address the topics listed on the published agenda. The council will hear testimony but will not engage in debate of issues with the public at this meeting. During testimony, it's not appropriate to applaud or convey disapproval. These actions only detract from the formal decorum of the meeting. At this time, please turn off or mute any electronic device.
Mr. President, if there's no objection, we'll bring up the veto message, item number 72 first.
Please.
72 is Mayor's veto of the resolution that at the request of Councilmember Franklin Thompson, the legislative package shall include a proposal to allow residents of Omaha's extraterritorial planning area 3 miles to vote in city elections.
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of remarks, and then I'll go ahead and yield the floor for the vote. Today marks the beginning, or actually the end of a long and arduous journey for me regarding the issue of fair city representation for people who live in the 3-mile zone of Omaha's borders. Many people will say that the debate was fast and furious and it was 1 week old, but history shows otherwise. It all started for me back in 2001 when I began to notice that in addition to the roughly 55,000 residents each of the 7 districts had to attend to, districts 5, 6, and 7 had anywhere from 9 to 14,000 additional residents each, in which they would have to do things such as answer phone calls, attend meetings, especially if those meetings and phone calls had to do with zoning and planning. That in and of itself is not a bad thing. I mean, I'm not going to sit around saying, how can I give Ben Gray 30,000 more or 10,000 more? I'm not complaining like that. But it became a sticky situation when the planning department would allow physical growth in the SID and 3-mile zone areas, and the only person a citizen could go to was a mayoral appointee to a non-elected and non-voting board. Immediately, citizens began to demand one of the 3 following remedies. They began to say, give us the right to vote in municipal elections. Or B, they would say, find a way to lessen city control over non-annexed areas. And that included things like maybe there should be a 2-tier kind of a system of rules. 1 tier for those in the city and 1 outside, and the ones outside have a little bit more ability to push back. Or they asked me, letter C, engage in a restructuring of local government so that zoning and planning cases that would go before the county board and not the city council, or at least that these cases would go before both boards. Each year for the last 12 and a half years, I have entertained a minimum of 10 complaints per year and sometimes upwards of 50 complaints per year, depending on what projects were being brought forth to the council. This represented a steady stream of criticism that the 4 Eastern District representatives did not have to deal with. During the early days, I handled criticism, and I handled citizen inquiry by saying things such as, go to the mayor and ask her to make a change. Well, that worked for a while. But soon people would say, we want you to do something because you understand our frustration. And so I became frustrated because I felt my hands were tied. 12 and a half years later, I decided the best option was to force a public discussion on the matter. Some people would say that's unorthodox, but then again, I don't always think business as usual is always the best way to go. Recently, the criticism came to a boil when the planning department decided to allow the development of high-density apartment units at locations adjacent to or near Fire Ridge and Grove Ridge. Even last Tuesday, a citizen asked the question, how can the city have such power over citizens that I cannot vote for you? It was a legitimate question. It was a tough question. It was a question that I decided not to ignore. Today, I want to thank all of those who weighed in on the debate. It's what I asked for, and I got it. The input came in the form of news articles, cartoons, radio interviews, telephone calls, emails, and text messages. Whether or not that input was pro or con, positive or negative, balanced or tilted, crunchy or janky, I still count it all good because it helped educate the public. One email that I had in particular said, I used to think you were a lazy councilman who sat on his hands and didn't do anything. Now I see that the system is the problem, that the system handcuffs you, and it handcuffs you more than I originally thought. To that I said, glory, hallelujah. The failure of some writers to put much needed context into the story, context such as recent council votes that kind of pushed this to the front, or the fact that my proposal was never a done deal from the beginning. I always said I was willing to take no as an answer, just wanted some input. The fact that some writers failed to put that into proper context is unfortunate, very unfortunate. One writer even broke a promise of saying there was a quote he was going to put in, and before the phone said click, the promise was broken. I especially want to salute the writers of the Omaha World Herald's editorial staff for their input. I admire people who know how to disagree without being disagreeable. We're all in this together, and I'm the kind of guy who values input. In their November 21st column, Vote Here, Live Here, the editors put together a well-conceived argument against granting the vote, and they did so without adding unnecessary coloring and personal digs. It was this input by the editors, not some of the other stuff that I read, that led me down the road of reconsideration. It is easier to admit when you're wrong when people leave the side door unlocked. Today, I admit I was wrong. For all the reasons cited, granting the right to vote to 3-mile zone citizens would not pass legal muster. If we were to grant it, we'd be tied up with legal battles, and those legal battles we would probably lose, and it would be very costly to the city. Based on the input that I have gathered over the past week, I will be voting in favor of the mayor's veto. There is a part of me, however, that remains sad. Although the community at large did a great job of debating one side of the coin, they forgot to turn the coin over and address the other side. Concerned citizens such as Dr. Ed Trumper and others who had a call to investigate other options just in case the request for the vote is deemed not feasible. Well, in other words, what else can we do? They weren't heard. And that side of the coin was barely discussed. Down here, that's normal. At the university, that's highly irregular. After today's vote, things will probably go back to business as usual. Developers may or may not bully 3 Mile Zone citizens. But if they do, city officials will probably make a claim that the mayoral appointee to a non-elected, non-voting board is adequate representation. After today, the debate will probably be silenced for good. The saving grace for me for this go-around, however, is that citizens will know that after 12 and a half years that I gave it my best shot, and they will also know that future questions and concerns can now be forwarded to the resident expert on the matter, Councilman Chris Jerem. And ladies and gentlemen, that feels like a very nice early Christmas present to have this weight off my shoulder. Thank you, and I want to move the approval.
Sustain the veto, is that what you're saying?
No, it should be a motion to override the veto.
Yes, that's the motion that I'm...
Nobody wants to override.
But then you just vote no afterwards and it's done. Yeah, but the motion should be, yes, the motion should be to override the mayor's veto with a second, and then everybody can vote no if they want.
I don't want to override it.
Yeah, so then you vote no.
Are you making a motion? Motion to override the veto?
Motion to accept the veto.
No, to override the veto.
To override.
There you go.
I don't want to override.
But you can vote, so you vote no.
Okay.
That's,
Got it.
Okay, you're making a motion?
He made a motion.
Yes.
Second.
There we go.
Motion and a second, roll call.
Amy, does Amy want to speak?
Oh, yes, thank you. Ms. Milton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to concur. I knew with the vote last week that it's not practical and actually most likely not legal from reading some of the statements in the case law in regards to voting in the 3 mile radius. However, I agreed with Dr. Thompson when we talked before the vote that I think this is a discussion that needed to be had. First of all, I think that the non-residents that live within the 3 mile zone didn't understand why they didn't get to vote. And they were often coming to us very frustrated that their zoning and things that affect not only their home values but their neighborhoods, they didn't feel like it was being considered and they didn't feel like they had anybody to go to. Moreover, districts 5, 6, and 7, I asked to poll the population. At this point right now, there's 66,815 people that live within the city of Omaha but are considered non-residents. They're in SIDs. That's approximately 20,000 people per district that each one of us, I think, feels that we have a duty to represent them even though they can't vote for us and they're non-residents, because they have issues that they're within our boundaries and they have issues that need to be taken up with the city council, yet they don't feel like they have anyone that they can go to. So I thought that this was an issue that should get out there and be discussed, and we should be able to give those non-residents an explanation as to why they can't vote. So I appreciate the fact that Dr. Thompson was willing to bring this forward and that there was a discussion that could be had, both with citizens and non-citizens. And hopefully, all of the citizens of Omaha, in or outside the boundaries, have a better understanding for how this process works, and that also the citizens of Omaha have more knowledge that the things we do here at the city council, how much we affect those non-residents in regards to the zoning and development. That we do, in sometimes I think, overreaching and taking our master plan and forcing it onto non-residents. So I appreciate the fact that we were able to have this discussion, Dr. Thompson, and I thank you for doing that. So, and with that, I'm going to vote no on overriding the mayor's veto.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pauls.
Thank you, Mr. President. A week or so ago, I heard somebody say that a lot of people move outside of the city, and so by doing so, they lose certain privileges. Well, I don't know if a lot of people understand that SIDs are relatively unique to this area. If you go to Lancaster County or you go to Lincoln, it's a different story. So those people can move out, but the city has moved ahead of them. So you can see where there is some confusion. I'm not saying doing away with the SIDs because they were established here a number of years ago, but I did learn this when I was down in the legislature. A lot of times when we do something, there's a ripple effect. And I will commend my partner over here for at least bringing this up.
You can call me George.
Okay, okay, George. To at least bring this forth, and I can understand the ramifications of voting for something like this, of all the legal hurdles that you'd have to overcome. And at the legislature, it'd be difficult to overcome how they would rule on this anyway. But I do say we are sort of unique because of the way that we developed the SIDs. If you want the SIDs, you can see there's going to be a little bit of a pushback for those people who move out there. They don't move out there to get away from the city. I don't agree with that. I think they're moving for various reasons. New territory, new buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. No more lights. There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Gray,
No.
Jerem,
No.
Melton,
No.
Pauls,
No.
Thompson,
No.
Gurnett.
No.
Mr. President.
No.
The motion to override fails on a 0-7 vote. Now, back to the regular agenda. Zoning ordinance on final reading, planning board attachments. Item number 5, ordinance to rezone property located at 1231 South 13th Street from General Industrial District to Neighborhood Business District. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval.
Public hearing on item number 5 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Motion approved. Second.
Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Passed 7-0. Item number 6, ordinance to rezone property located at 1707 Monroe Street from General Commercial District to R4 Single Family Residential District, High Density. A, planning board, planning department recommend approval.
Public hearing on item number 6 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Public hearing's closed. Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Passed 7-0. We'll take items 7 through 10. It's one case. 7 is ordinance to amend the boundaries of the major commercial corridor overlay district to incorporate into that district the properties located northwest of 52nd and L Streets. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval. 8 is resolution of the preliminary plat and tide Intercit second edition along with attached conditions hereby accepted and the preparation of final plat is hereby approved. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval. 9 is the replat is hereby approved. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval. And 10 is resolution of the subdivision agreement with Auto Auctions LLC, providing for public improvements, wastewater management fees, sewer connections to the Omaha sanitary sewer system is hereby approved.
Public hearings on items number 7 through 10 are today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Public hearing's closed. Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
They're all passed 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, due to no meeting being held December 3rd, 2013, agenda item number 11 shall be laid over 3 weeks to December 17th for publication and public hearing. Pursuant to City Council Rule 70, agenda items number 12 through 14 shall be laid over 2 weeks for publication and public hearing. Liquor, item number 15. Brown Derby, 4036 South 24th Street, Class C liquor license, new application, O location.
Public hearing on item number 15 is today. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Adopted 7-0. Item number 16, tracks 1506 South 60th Street. Class C liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on item number 16 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Jerem.
Do we know where they are, Buster?
But we do not. Here they are, right here.
Oh,
Come on, we're watching.
please come down and just state your name and whether you're a proponent or an opponent.
My name is Ann Conan, and I'm applying for the liquor license for Trax, and I'm all for it.
Good. Well, Ms. Conan,
Yes.
would you please tell us, is this the old trackside?
It is. It's not a new location. It's an old location.
And what is your business plan so that the neighbors might have a better feel for what they can expect?
It is to bring back a neighborhood bar that the neighbors will want to come to for the world's best chicken.
Okay. Well, I want to wish you luck and encourage you to join the neighborhood Exarban Elmwood Neighborhood Association so that you can have a means of communicating directly with them.
I'd like that. I want to be a very positive addition.
Great. Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Pauls.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that it's back because I used to live about 2 blocks from there.
Come back to the world's best chicken then, right?
Will do. Thank you.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Adopted 7-0. Item number 17, Doc at Eddie's BBQ, 2056 North 117th Street, 117th Avenue, Class I liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on item number 17 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Milton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Adopted 7-0. We'll take items 18 through 21. They're all with the same applicant. Holland Performing Arts Center, 1200 Douglas Street, Class I liquor license and application, O location. Item number 16 is the Holland Performing Arts Center, same applicant, same location for a catering liquor license. Item 20 is the Orpheum Theater, 409 South 16th Street, Class I liquor license, new application, no location. 21 is Weaver's Lounge, 401 South 16th Street, Suite 100, Class I liquor license, new application, no location.
Public hearings on items number 18 through 21 are today. Any proponents, please?
Hi, Teresa Bradley with 1200 Douglas Street, here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton? Pauls?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
All adopted 7-0. Item number 22, Backline Improv Theater, 1618 Harney Street, on sale beer license, new application, new location. We have communications opposing.
Public hearing on item number 22 is today. Are there any proponents? Please come down.
Hi, my name is Dylan Rohde with Backline Improv. I moved here 3 years ago to start up improv school. We just moved downtown recently and just trying to get beer sold there as it is a comedy venue on weekends. It's just beer only, and we also teach classes, which is our main thing. We've had a number of things from lawyers to even a politician, some scientists, and whatnot. And that's really all I'm asking
Thank
for.
you.
It's just beer.
And your address too?
1618 Harney Street, just down the block.
Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Jerem.
Sir.
Yes, Mr. Rohde, if you could come back.
Yeah.
You had a procuring alcohol for minor on your background from 2005
Yeah.
in Wayne County, is that
Yes.
correct? So there's been some concern addressed over your ability to follow liquor laws and to see what you're going to do to make sure that you're going to comply, and what can you tell us about then and now? And
Yeah, I had just turned 21. I didn't really realize, I guess, what I was doing at the time. Some other people in college had needed some beer, and again, I had just turned 21. And I'd had my advisor ask for me, and I made a bad decision. I spent 1 week in jail, and I have never bought alcohol for a minor since.
Now, the neighborhood that you're moving into, about a year and a half ago, in very close proximity to that address where you're in, there was a homicide. So there's been some concern by the neighbors as to what kind of neighbor you'll be if you're selling alcohol there. And I know it's beer only and it's on premises only. It's not off sale. But what do you intend to do in terms of your training, your management of the premises to make sure things don't get out of hand there?
Well, we'll always keep someone up at the front door to make sure that nothing happens. It is a community of comedians, which I've never, in my own personal history, ever experienced any even violence amongst comedians, let alone any sort of weapons. So I don't see it. I'm not sure what that murder was or homicide was, but I do know that we don't allow any sort of violence or anything that really gets out of hand. Even though we're comedians, we're pretty mild-mannered. We take it all very seriously.
Well, what it was alleged that there was an after-hours club running at your location without benefit of a license, where they further alleged there was alcohol sold, and then there was this incident that happened out on Harney Street, right outside of it, just so you know why the neighbors are a little leery about and want some more scrutiny as to what's going in that location. It's just the recent past there was unpleasant not too long ago. And, you know, what your answers to my questions have alleviated a lot of the questions, addressed the questions that they had. But have you had the alcohol server training class yet?
Yes, I got certified. I did the online course. I didn't bring it with me, but it is in my car.
I'll take your word on that. And I think as a part of the application, you're required to show proof that you've taken that before the Liquor Commission will issue the license. I think I saw a note on your application that training was required. So
okay, yep.
Make sure you file that with the Liquor Commission.
Okay.
Just so you know that I'm going to be supporting your license here today, but I'll be keeping an eye on you because the neighbors have asked me to, and we'd hope that you don't have any problems or personal or business violations in the next year, just to get off to a good start.
Absolutely.
So I want to
we'll
wish
do
you
whatever
luck,
we can.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Gregg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one thing real quick. If I would, Councilmember Jerem, if he would join are you part of the business district or business association down there or the neighborhood association there?
I am not.
My suggestion would be that you join them so that you're continually updated as to what concerns, what issues or so forth may be going on there, or if there are concerns about you, you can address them directly with some of the people involved. So I would suggest that you strongly do that. It's not a mandate here from the council, but I would suggest that you do that. I think that would be beneficial to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton?
Yes.
Pauls?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's approved 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 23, Perry's Place, 9652 Mockingbird Drive. Request permission for an addition to the present Class C liquor license to extend their existing beer garden. We have communications from planning, and we have a request from the applicant to lay this over 3 weeks to December 17th and continue the public hearing.
Motion to lay over 3 weeks?
Continue the public hearing.
Yes.
Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton? Pauls?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Laid over 3 weeks, 7-0. Item number 24, Mai Tai at 14618 West Center Road. Request permission for an addition to their present Class I liquor license for an area to the south and a sidewalk cafe to the east. We have communications from planning, and we have communications from the applicant. His attorney requesting an amendment to change the location to remove the sidewalk cafe area 5 feet by 18 feet to the east.
Public hearing on item number 24 is today. Any proponents, please?
Yes, Mr. President and council members, my name is Cynthia Epstein. My address is 11516 Nicholas Street, and I represent the owner of Chang Jiang Enterprises, who is here if you have any questions. Basically, they have the Mai Tai restaurant on 146th and Center, and they're just expanding the premises. So we're just expanding the liquor license.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Motion to approve.
The amendment.
Motion to approve the amendment. Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton? Pauls? Thompson?
Yes.
Gurnett? Mr. President?
Yes.
As amended.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Milton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President?
Yes.
It's passed as amended 7-0. Item number 25 is DoubleTree Suites by Hilton Omaha, 7270 Cedar Street. Request permission to appoint Michael Kozalk, manager.
Public hearing on item number 25 is today. Proponents, please.
Yes, I'm Michael Kasalka. I'm with the DoubleTree Suites on 7270 Cedar Street.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Milton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President?
Yes.
Approved 7-0. Item number 26 is Zen Room at 316 South 15th Street. Request permission to appoint Michael Fisher, manager.
Public hearing on item number 26 is today. Proponents.
I'm Mike Fisher. I'm the GM of the Gin Room, and I'm a proponent of the motion.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President?
Yes.
Approved 7-0. We'll take items 27 and 28 together. 27 is resolution that Big Red is granted approval to operate a satellite Keno location at Homely Dan's at 3121 North 108th Street, and 28 is Big Red at the Twisted Post Bar and Grill, 14901 Industrial Road.
Public hearings on items number 27 and 28 are today. Proponents, Ms. Coffey.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Katrina Coffey. I'm Vice President of Marketing for Big Red Keno, and we're located at 11248 John Galt Boulevard. I have with me today the two owners, and we're just here to ask for your approval for the two Keno applications. Both these are existing locations, so it's just ownership changes.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Second.
Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President?
Yes.
And Jerem passes the second time for a potential conflict with one of the applicants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause an item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by City Council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items number 29 and 30 were held on November 19th.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. Chair.
We have number 37. Are we on that one yet, or are we on just 29, 30?
29, 30.
Okay, I have someone here to speak on the next one, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President?
Yes.
They're both passed 7-0.
The public hearings on agenda items number 31 through 45 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Harris, here to address item number 37. I'm with Live Well Omaha, 12565 West Center Road. We believe that this addition to our city is much needed and will be a great addition to our city. We know that getting people out and active recreationally and for transportation is very important to our city. That brings a vibrancy, and we're excited to see this on the agenda. Very excited to see this moving forward. Provides a great connection to the bridge, to the downtown area, and provides an extension to something that's become really the iconic image of our city. So we ask for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ben Turner. I'm also with Live Well Omaha. Our address is 12565 West Center Road. I'm the program manager for Omaha B-Cycle. We're a bike sharing program operating here in the city. Our goal is to be a viable transportation option for the city of Omaha, and we're working toward expansion currently. We have a station at the Bob Carey pedestrian bridge. It's our most successful station. The bridge and our station there will provide a connector to both Council Bluffs and the rest of Omaha, really help maximize the transportation opportunities for pedestrians, cyclists over the bridge. Bridge will provide a vital connection to TD Ameritrade Park, Creighton, and other areas in North Downtown that are on our expansion plans. And so just in terms of giving you guys some information on how to help maximize the investment we've made in our community for both bike sharing and the Bob Carey pedestrian bridge. That's how it would affect us at Omaha B-Cycle.
Thanks. I almost didn't recognize you without your bike gear on.
I know. Yeah, wear a helmet next time.
Thank you. Mr. Jerem.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just so everyone knows what this isn't the actual dollars for construction. This is the first step of getting HNTB hired to conduct a series of input sessions, preliminary design concepts, drawings. As I understand it, it'll also be take us through the environmental phase, which is the key to once the route and the preliminary designs are kind of identified through public input and the environmental issues are assessed, then we can then identify what the cost estimate is, so we can then identify potential funding sources. Because of the location, potential reserve areas for future convention center expansion, the costs are likely to involve the necessity for private dollars, whether they be philanthropic or others, in a public-private deal. So I'm anxious to get this going. It'll be a direct connection from the Bob Carey Bridge to North Downtown. I think is our park director here, Brooke. You back there, Brooke Bench?
Yes, I am here. Brooke Bench, Parks Director.
The Bob Carey Bridge, I don't know what your latest tally was in the summer months of peak season, what the per count per hour was for pedestrians and bikes on the bridge, but was it in the 700 range?
Yes, there was times that during peak times that we were getting 500 to 700 people going over the bridge per hour.
So this is a very well utilized resource, not just for tourism, but for actually people who are commuting by bike, recreational use by bike, pedestrians, joggers. And currently, to get to North Downtown from the Bob Carey Bridge, you have to go either up to Abbott Drive or down to, I think, the Martin Luther King pedestrian, or over to Capitol and then back around. And so by its nature, people are avoiding North Downtown. And the bike routes that all then converge in North Downtown basically come to a stop, and there's confusion there. So this process I'm excited about, and I hope that as we move forward we can begin to work together to identify creative ways to have a public-private partnership on this to get this accomplished.
Thank you. I'm supportive as well. I think it is an important project for the same reasons outlined by Councilmember Jerem. And I know it's also important to the residents who live down there in increasing numbers. And it will take private philanthropy, but I'm also encouraged and believe there is that support for private philanthropy to get the construction accomplished once we get through this phase. That's fondly called the baby Bob, right? Thank you. No further lights. Roll call.
It's on items 31 through 40.
Motion approved.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Thompson.
No on 37, yes on the others.
You're going to have to say, unless we want to take 37 out of that, which we didn't. Not sure there's any way we can do that unless you vote no. Okay. Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
They're adopted 6-1. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, the third reading and public hearing agenda items number 46 through 47 shall be held on December 10th. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, the third reading on agenda items number 48 through 64 shall be held on December 10th. The public hearing on these items are today. Item 48, ordinance to exercise the prior option to extend the contract with Merle Brothers for transportation of sludge cake from the Missouri River and Pavilion Creek wastewater treatment plant.
Public hearing on item number 48 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 49, ordinance to accept the bid from Navarro Lawn and Landscape and Big Smith Enterprises for ground maintenance of city right-of-way.
Public hearing on item number 49 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 50, ordinance declaring necessity of appropriating property located at 5026 South 19th Street for implementation of the Consolidated Action Plan.
Public hearing on item 50 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item number 51, ordinance approving an agreement for the sale of city-owned property to Habitat for Humanities of Omaha to convey the property located at 4541 Saratoga Street and 3002 North 41st Street.
Public hearing on item number 51 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
We'll take 52 and 53 together. They're both ordinance declaring necessity of appropriating property located at 1718 South 29th Street for implementation of the Consolidated Plan, and 53 is this another for the property at 4102 Cummings Street.
Public hearings on items number 52 and 53 are today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearings closed.
Item 54, ordinance to approve the redevelopment tax and financing loan agreement with Hearst Properties Incorporated to implement the KETV office and studio facility tax and financing redevelopment project plan located at 1001 South 10th Street.
Public hearing on item number 54 is today. Proponents, Ms. Hadley.
Good afternoon, Bridget Hadley, City Planning, here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Any opponents? Public hearings closed.
Item 55, ordinance approving a redevelopment tax and financing loan agreement with 100 South 19th Street to implement the wire tax and financing redevelopment project plan located at 100 South 19th Street.
Public hearing on item number 55 is today. Proponents.
Bridget Hadley, City Planning, here to answer any questions you may have.
Any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearings closed. Mr. Jerem.
Yeah, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't have Todd come down, Mr. Heasted from New Style, who's on a march, it seems, to get downtown buildings repurposed and back to being on the tax rolls in a constructive way. And so you just want to take a second to put a plug in for what you're doing in the old bank building?
Sure.
Not the bank building, the old phone company building.
Phone company, yeah. Todd Heaston, New Style Development, 2223 Dodge Street. Yeah, and we just checked before I left. Went over the Slate building over on 19th and Capitol, hit 100% last week. And we got 171 out of 194 at the High Line, so we're ready for some more units coming online here this spring. So we're going to actually start lease up in June 1st on this.
And the agenda didn't say how many units in the wire.
Yeah, 300 units.
So with a bunch of parking not only in the building but across the street.
And we're also hoping, the Douglas Street parking garage will actually be able to utilize that a little bit for a change instead of being half vacant for the last 10 years.
So this is another major development in the Jocelyn District, are you calling this? Or is it just east of what you're calling it?
It really hasn't picked up a name yet. We're kind of letting it do its own thing. Yeah, Jocelyn District might stick.
And the total investment of the project?
$42 million, what it ends up with the streetscape and everything that's going on around it.
Well, we wish you continued success, and thanks for rebuilding the downtown, it seems like, and the residential side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Congratulations.
Just a reminder about the livestock. You did a great job.
Thank you. It's going very good.
And we're still
That is going good, yeah.
I think Councilman Jerem is doing a good job as your Chief Marketing Officer, too. Thank you.
Item 56, ordinance approving a redevelopment tax and financing loan agreement with 1011 South 30th Avenue LLC to implement the 1011 South 30th Avenue tax and financing redevelopment project plan located at 1011 South 30th Avenue.
Public hearing on item number 56 is today. Are there any proponents?
Bridget Hadley, City Planning, here to answer any questions you may have.
Any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 57, ordinance to amend Section 23-177 concerning employment classifications by adding the employment classification entitled General Service Division Manager.
Public hearing on item number 57 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 58, ordinance to approve the granting of a utility easement to Verizon Wireless on a strip of property located adjacent to the fire station 42 at 3120 North 102nd Street.
Public hearing on item number 58 is today. Proponents, please.
Tim Wickman, representing Verizon Wireless, just here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. And your address, please?
Pardon me?
And your address, please?
122 Locust Lodge Avenue, Council Bluffs.
Great. Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
We'll take items 59, 60, and 61 together. 59 is ordinance to approve a contract with Elkhorn Public Schools for the city to provide one uniformed police officer and marked police car to the premises of the Elkhorn High School. 60 is with Millard North High School. 61 is with West Side High School.
Public hearings on items number 59 through 61 are today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearings closed. Mr. Pauls.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I'm looking over some of the information that they provided, and I find it interesting. They're not to exceed 7.5 hours a school day, and they need to be there a half hour before classes start and a half hour after the school is dismissed. I don't see how you can work that in a 7.5 hour day. Well, I have to be honest with you. Of course, I do visit these schools at times, and I think it needs to be noted. A lot of times I see the police officer in the office, which I think, I hope the schools are monitoring that a little bit, because I've been up one high school several times, and as I walk by, and all of a sudden I see the individual in the office, and I'm telling you, either I'm just hitting at the wrong time, but I just don't think that's the place to be. As I say that, being a former administrator. And I'm also very curious at the cost. $327,000 for two individuals. That's for the Millard schools and the West Side schools, and then Elkhorn is, I'm assuming half that. That's for one individual, $163,000. I just sometimes would like to have a little bit more information. That seems like a pretty good chunk of money.
I believe Chief Schmatter happens to be here, if he's willing to answer a question about that.
And I don't mean to catch you off guard, because I know you're for off guard. That's pretty good, isn't it? And that's not... Yes. Okay. Yes.
Here's how off guard I am. I don't even know what discussion we're talking about at this point.
Well,
I don't even know what item we're on yet. So.
Okay, and that's right. And again, I'm not trying to, blindside you at all. But it looks like the school districts pay. For example, I'm just saying Millard pays $327,000, almost $328,000 to Omaha for the two police officers. I'm wondering if that covers the cost of the two police officers. And again,
Sure.
I don't expect you to have this information.
Just for the record, Todd Schmatter, Chief of Police, City of Omaha, 505 South 15th.
Start with 59.
Yeah. Again,
looks like it's
And it's just public hearing, too. If you'd like to follow up later, we can do that as well.
Yes, we could do that later, because, again, I'm not trying to, that was not my intent. It was just to bring it up. So
right. Well, Councilmember Pauls, I know that the number covers some benefits as well.
Okay.
So you're talking for each of these school years, that would cover each of these years for both of these officers.
Okay. So in other words, it's basically you're saying, okay, so my reply back to that is not every officer can be paid the same. 3 years. $163,000. I mean, plus benefits. One would have to be paid more. I'm assuming they're on different pay scales.
Well, the reimbursement would be just based on the highest pay scale.
Okay.
And generally the officers that are assigned as school resource officers are near the upper echelon of the pay scale anyways, just by nature of the eligibility for that position.
Okay. And am I being too critical, just having to go up to a school at the wrong time? I mean, I would think they would be out and about.
Well, it's possible. I mean, I go places and I question things too, and oftentimes the answer that I get is very plausible. You know, they work for the police department, but they also work for the schools, and a lot of times they do interface quite often with the administration, with the principal's office, things like that. That could be a reason why they were there. Okay. There could have been a visitor that's coming up that the staff was concerned about. There's a number of reasons, so I really can't say right now.
And again, I'm not trying to. Okay. Thank you for your information.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Jerem.
President, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just before you say that, Chief, it looks like this is continuing the practice of what we've done in the past to have 3-year deals. That these are not for 1 year. For 1 year would be extraordinary, but it's from August of 13 for the 13 and 14 year, 14, 15, 15, 16.
Right.
So it's actually 3 years bundled into one contract. And then if it's a practice that's been in the past, it's something that the taxpayers of the city of Omaha don't pay directly, but the school districts through their budget levy reimburse the city's coffers for this cost.
That's correct.
So that practice will continue.
That's correct. Overall, our school resource program has been cutting edge compared to others across the country. We do make modifications based on things that happen across the country and in Omaha, and it's generally received as a very positive program, and these officers are specially trained to provide not only security to the school, but a counseling function as well to the students that attend those schools. And what I was going to say, Mr. President, is I would be obviously willing to take a look at this later and provide any more details that I can to the council without being caught cold.
You bet. Mr. Thompson.
Yes, Chief, one more thing that I want you to look into is the flexibility that you want these officers to have. For example, if there is a time of day in a school building where things, because the beginning of school and letting out is rougher than and then, you know, when they're in class. Right. So is it possible that you want the flexibility so that they can do some neighborhood patrolling too and not always be at the school building itself?
Generally, the busiest time is when school is let out. There's a lot of traffic issues associated with more so our middle schools, but also our high schools. So we want to make sure the school resource officers are there during that time. As far as patrolling the neighborhoods, if that school resource officer has to leave the premises, we oftentimes have an on-duty officer that will come and take their place during that time, because the purpose is we don't want to leave the school abandoned. And we definitely don't ever want to get in the trend of knowing that officer's gone at certain times. So we do maintain the integrity of keeping that officer there, and also, you know, they're reimbursing us here, so they have that right to have an officer there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pauls.
Thank you. I appreciate your help, and thank you. You did clear, Chris. You did clear some of that up with me on the several years involved. And my intent was basically just to raise the issue about having the police officers in the school. And that's what my intent. Thank you.
The one thing I will add, what we try to do is we try to work with the principals and the administrators to get a good match for the school. Okay. They have a say in who goes out there. Okay. And they have a say, you know, we'd rather not have this individual here, that type of thing. So we do work with them on that front.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
62, orders to approve an agreement with the Omaha Schools Foundation as fiscal sponsor for the Greater Omaha Attendance and Learning Center, or Learning Services Center.
Public hearing on item number 62 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 63, orders to approve the acceptance of a grant to encourage arrest policies and enforcement of protection order programs to support and enhance Omaha's coordinated community response to domestic violence.
Public hearing on item number 63 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 64, ordinance to approve the acceptance and authorized distribution of the U.S. Department of Justice Project Safe Neighborhoods to provide funding to reduce gun and gang violence in Omaha and neighboring communities.
Public hearing on item number 64 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 65 is an ordinance to establish the Blackstone Improvement District 6877. The public hearing will be held on December 10th, 2013. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, third reading public hearing agenda items number 66 through 67 shall be held on December 17th. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, the second reading public hearing on agenda items number 68 through 70 shall be held on December 13th. On the supplement, pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, the second reading public hearing on agenda item number 73 shall be held on December 10th.
Motion to go into exec session for labor negotiations.
Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton?
Yes.
Pauls?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. President, I think you're supposed to read a statement now that basically says we're going into executive session for the sole purpose of discussing labor negotiations.
We're going into executive session to discuss the sole purpose of labor negotiations.
Thank you.
And for those that are leaving the chambers and might not still be here, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you want to go
There's executive sessions for this guy.
Yeah, we gotta check out.
We gotta vote you out. I mean, we have.
All right, I'm gonna stick around, check myself.
Motion to come out of executive session.
Motion to executive session.
Roll call.
Gray, Jerem, Milton, Pauls, Thompson, Gurnett. Mr. President, now the President needs to announce that the only thing we discussed during executive session was
The only thing we discussed in executive session was personnel matters.
labor
Labor
negotiations.
Motion to adjourn.
Roll call.
Gray,
Yes.
Jerem, Milton, Pauls, Thompson, Gurnett. Mr. President, if you will, I'll give you the time. 3:40.
Shining sea.